Hi, everyone. Just to clarify, we've started the meeting with three councillors. However, only two councillors will be proceeding and hearing this matter. Councillor Verde and Councillor um, Khan. Um, Councillor Paul Alexander will be observing the meeting. He will not be making a decision in this matter.
Okay, we're going to resume our normal programming. So welcome everyone to tonight's licensing subcommittee meeting. My name is Councillor Florian Chabot-Verger and I will be chairing tonight's meeting, as has been said. It is also being broadcast live on the Council's YouTube channel. If I lose connection, well, actually, we will temporarily halt the meeting so we won't be quiet anymore, so please bear with. I'd like to remind all participants of a few housekeeping points, please. Please do keep your microphones muted unless you are speaking. Please keep your camera turned on when you are speaking at the hearing. Please note that the chat function has been disabled. If parties wish to add any additional information other than at their allotted time to speak, they must use the raise the hand function so that they are not missed. I also ask that members keep their questions and comments brief and to the point. I now move on to item 1 on the agenda, apologies for absence. No apologies for absence have been received. Item 2 is declaration of interest. Do members have any declarations of interest?
The chair must, Chairman, otherwise he would be chairing.
So do we need to register a declaration of interest now?
Yes, you do, yes.
Councillor Alexander, do you wish to make a declaration of interest?
Yes, I'm standing down because I've been approached because I'm the ward councillor for this particular area. I'd had residents asking me, as I do all the time, questions on planning and questions on licensing, and I'd engaged in a conversation with a local resident, and subsequently that local resident has put in an objection, and for the avoidance of doubt, I don't want to be seen to have already made my mind up on this particular case.
Thank you, Councillor Alexander. If that could be recorded, please.
And Councillor Chabot-Verger, just for clarification, as I say, it's unusual for a councillor having declared an interest to actually remain in a meeting. So if he is staying, it must be clear that there's only 2 voting members tonight.
Okay, yes. Item 3, we're going to proceed to a roll call. This is just to check that everyone is here. We should have with us tonight the applicant, Mr. Gurpanit Singh. We should also have the applicant's agent, Mr. Surendra Panchal. We should have with us the licensing officer, Lorna McKenna. Thank you. Another licensing officer, Adrian Overton.
Present, thank you, Chair.
We should also have the council's legal officer, Emmanuel Amposa.
Present, Chair.
Thank you. Now, for the people objecting, we should have with us Roberto Brunetto. Roberto, if you can hear us, just say that you... Yep.
Present, yep.
Thank you. We should have John Shoffrey.
Yes, yep, I'm here.
Thank you. We should have Paul Marotta.
Yep, present.
Thank you. We should have Louisa Moiro.
Sorry, Chair. Louisa's email just to say she's got an emergency and can no longer attend. So she did send some comments via email to the licensing team. So maybe when I can read them out just to make sure she's heard.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. And we should also have with us Charlotte Dexter.
I'm here, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Nicole Trihi, you will be representing Paul and Susan Marotta.
I'm here.
Thank you. I'll explain the procedure. Before we begin, I can confirm that in addition to the main agenda, Supplementary Agenda A containing additional information was published and circulated to all parties on 20th of November 2023. Before we consider the application today, please may I quickly explain the procedure the committee will follow. We will hear from the following. The licensing officer will introduce the application, then we will hear from the objectors, and finally, the applicant. Usually, each party will address the committee for a maximum of 5 minutes. Following the presentation by all parties, the committee may ask questions of any party or other person present at the hearing. Except committee members, no party has the right to ask questions of any other party at any time during the hearing. Following the presentation and questioning, each party will be allowed a maximum of 3 minutes to sum up their case or representation. The committee will then retire for deliberations. Upon its return, I will announce the committee's decision, and for the avoidance of doubt, as it has been said, only 2 committee members will be voting, which is Councillor Afzal Khan and myself. We move on to the presenting officer. Can I ask the licensing officer, Lorna McKenna, to introduce the application, please?
Thank you, Chair. On the 22nd of September 2023, Personal Licence Courses UK, on behalf of Mr. Gurpaneet Singh, submitted an application for a new premises licence to be granted in respect of the premises known as Fulham Local Food and Wine, 126 Stevendale Road, London, SW6 2PH. The applicant has applied for a new premises licence for the sale of alcohol off the premises only and proposes to operate as an off-licence and convenience store. The licensable activities that have been sought are for the sale of alcohol off the premises only from Monday to Sunday between the hours of 8 AM to 11 PM. And the opening hours of the premises will be Monday to Sunday between the hours of 8 AM to 11 PM. During the consultation period, the licensing section received 10 representations objecting to the licence application being granted. One was received on behalf of the Barclay Road Conservation Area Neighbourhood Watch and 9 from local residents. The licensing section has also received comments from Planning, Trading Standards and the London Fire Brigade, and I can confirm that no responsible authorities have made a representation against the application. Further to the main agenda, a supplementary agenda A containing additional information of the applicant confirming to add 3 further conditions to the licence proposed by Trading Standards should the application be minded to be granted this evening. The supplementary agenda was published and circulated to all parties on the 20th of November 2023. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Lorna. We're now going to move on to the objectors. I would like to assign each person 5 minutes if that is possible, which means that the applicant in its turn will have 25 minutes. Mr. Brunetto, you're first to speak. Whenever you are ready, you have 5 minutes.
All right, thank you very much, Councillor. Sorry. Well, the main reason for my objection is, first of all, the selling of alcohol in this area, mainly residential area, and also the timing that was proposed for this convenience store for the sale of alcohol from 8 AM till 11 PM in the night, would cause quite a bit of disruption in the area, considering that the selling of alcohol on this off-license store could attract many people in the area, but also possibility to have a lot of problem issue and micro delinquents problem. So the main issue is that we are living nearby the store, and we are hearing that the area was very, very crowded at night with very nice people and people mainly searching for buying and consuming alcohol in the street by the area. Yeah, that's the main objection I have.
Can I add something? I'm his wife, so we live just near the store. So we are basically the ones that are wall to wall to the store, and we feel like it's going to affect, first of all, noise wise, the timing of opening the store, and also again what Roberto said is the risk of having like minor to major criminal issues around the store.
Thank you very much, both. We'll move on to Mr. Shoffrey. Whenever you're ready, you have 5 minutes.
Okay, I'm ready now. I think there's a remarkable consistency to the objections, which I think makes them quite powerful cumulatively. I'd like to make 4 points. First of all, I think the council should consider the cumulative impact of so many alcohol outlets in a small area. We've got a 24-hour place, Crystal's, at the end of the road. There's the pub. There are 2 Sainsbury's. There are other places in Walsworth Bridge Road. We really don't need another one in a residential area. It will add nothing to, it will be of no benefit to the area. It will encourage antisocial behaviour and also encourage Deliveroo drivers and late night alcohol sales. So I think it is the sale of alcohol as opposed to non-alcohol is an absolute net negative for the local residents. That's the first point. The second point is you're looking at your guidance. You set a closing time for alcohol sales of 10 p.m. in residential areas. The hours of this are 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. That seems an extraordinarily long period to be allowing someone to sell alcohol. And I would have thought, there are various requests for earlier closings and later openings of the alcohol license. But it should, I would have thought, stop selling alcohol at 10 o'clock at the latest to be in compliance with your advice on what is appropriate for a residential area. And it most certainly is a residential area. It would also, I think it's important that it stops serving alcohol an hour before the pub closes, the Sands and now the Fulham Arms, at 11 o'clock, to stop people moving from one to the other. I think already the nexus of having a pub and an off-license opposite each other is asking for trouble. So we would urge for the request for an earlier closing time for the off-license to be very seriously considered. Third, we are very concerned about the antisocial behaviour, about all sorts of bikes, Deliveroo deliverers, Getter deliverers dropping off to pick up alcohol and other bits and pieces for their orders outside a place that is already quite a busy road junction with very little, not much road space, not much pavement space, and really the idea of people being able to park outside there to pick things up is unacceptable. So I think we want basically to have signs to stop people parking motorbikes and other bikes outside while they pick things up. And fourthly, CCTV inside, I know, is part of it. It's absolutely essential also that we have CCTV outside so that we can pick up and monitor antisocial behaviour and improper behaviour, because I think this is a quiet residential area. And I think a lot of us are very concerned that this will just encourage antisocial behaviour and also that the Deliveroo economy and the disruptions that causes. And finally, I just say in terms of protection of the youth, there should be a requirement that you can only buy alcohol on a credit card, not a debit card. Makes it a bit harder for a young person to buy alcohol. But in summary, I think the off-license aspect of this shop adds absolutely nothing to this area and causes a variety of problems, which I've outlined in more detail and others have in their representations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Lorna, we'll move on to you to read the statement you received today from Louisa Moara.
Yes, Louisa just said she had an emergency this evening, so she wasn't able to attend. You do already have my concerns, which are mainly to do with noise and safety, given that I live above this shop. Please also note that the premises is yet to have its prohibition notice removed, as the fire brigade have not been asked to review this till tomorrow. This is in the information pack shared, and as I live above the shop, the safety of the building is vital to my own safety and health. That's it. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Lorna. We'll move on to Charlotte Dexter. Whenever you're ready, you have 5 minutes, please.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'd like to say or bring to the committee's attention the unanimity of the concern of residents directly above, as we just heard, around and throughout the area, plus those beyond the area. So I represent those people more towards Fulham Broadway. We're concerned generally about the delivery aspects of this type of premises. Now, I'll get back to that in a minute. What really concerns me, and I'm sure it concerns the, so I'm just looking at my time, I'm sure it concerns the committee, is that we have a coterie of very genuine, interesting, concerning representations by residents, as well as from Doug Love from Trading Standards. We have a lot of crime supported evidence that's been put in front of you about the area and so on. We have the specific concerns about the pub across, which is a very lovely pub. I go there once in a while myself. It's just changed hands, but everybody's hoping it will kind of stay a very nice pub. This pub has never had alcohol sales across the way. That creates a whole different dynamic. What concerns me is that the applicant has responded to Trading Standards and said, in the supplemental agenda A in front of you, yes, oh yes, we'll do whatever you ask. Of course, we'll do the training and we'll do this, and that's good. That's a good step. But the applicant has not responded to any of the concerns and legitimate points made by the residents. And the subcommittee will know that over the last few years, as more and more residents become involved in these hearings and trying to get our voices across, applicants continue to respond to responsible authorities, as they should, but they don't respond or come back and say, oh, we've noticed these concerns. We've noticed people have pointed out that even your own licensing policy has a suggestive table in it that mentions and states 2,200 hours is absolute latest for a residential area to have a license, off license open. Nothing from the applicant. And this is a huge concern in Fulham. We spend huge amount of effort, time, energy, resource of the council, everybody's time, your time, the money for the legal counsels and the committee services, everything to have it. We have to get to a hearing in order to delineate what needs to be done in a specific circumstance, in this case, for this corner shop, proposed corner shop on Stevendale Road. So I'm very concerned that we once again have an applicant who hasn't listened to residents, hasn't responded to anything that's been said, hasn't suggested any conditions, and most importantly, has not followed the London Borough of Hammersmith and Fulham's licensing policy. So your own licensing policy has not been followed because this applicant has not suggested any ways that they will alleviate the concerns of residents, that they will assist in anything to do with the neighborhood, anything to do with the noise and nuisance, anything to do with crime and disorder. They haven't commented on the crime stats. They haven't shown any concern. In addition, which is of great concern to residents, they have shown no concern about deliveries and the delivery economy. So we have a whole new realm here that's developed in the last 3 to 5 years, but burgeoning during and after COVID, obviously, something that the Licensing Act never anticipated, obviously, back in 2003, came into force in 2005. But we have to deal with delivery under the 4 licensing objectives. Noise and nuisance, crime, disorder.
You're just over your 5 minutes. So I'm going to stop you right there. Apologies for that. So thank you each for your comments. We'll move on to the applicant. I would like to ask Mr. Singh and Mr. Panchal.
Sorry, Chair, no,
sorry,
it's Councillor Trehi now
Oh,
speaking.
apologies.
Fellow residents.
That's right. Thank you for reminding me. Councillor Trehi, you're actually representing 2 residents tonight, aren't you?
Yeah, the Marotters.
You can have 5 minutes for each, considering that not everyone has used their time previously.
Sorry to interrupt, Chair. They submitted one representation together, so it would only be 5 minutes.
Right. Okay. Well, then we do have 5 minutes. Councillor Trehi, whenever you're ready, you have 5 minutes.
I shall try and keep it to 5 minutes. Well, I'm a local councillor and resident. I speak as a representative of the Marotters, but I speak for the residents in general. Actually, hearing from Caroline Dexter and Mr. Shufri, I think what they say is a lot of the responses are similar. I speak against the licence being granted. Stephendale Road is typically a quiet residential street with a great community spirit. So the proposal of having licensed serving alcohol late into the night each night is a bit concerning, really, because it doesn't benefit the community. It's not a suitable location. I will go into detail in relation to the 4 main licensing objectives, but fundamentally, this corner isn't a suitable location because of traffic, noise, and nuisance, and it has the potential to massively impact public safety and increase crime and disorder, and potentially underage drinking as well. So I'll cover the points as quickly as I can. Prevention and crime and disorder. So I've got serious concerns that having alcohol license for this amount of length of time, particularly, would increase crime and disorder. Now, the premises said about not selling very strong alcohol, putting a limit on the strong beers and ciders, etc. But it doesn't stop people buying lots of alcohol just at the point of the alcohol limit. It doesn't mention anything about spirits and the stronger. Now, antisocial behaviour and activities definitely do increase around off licenses, and this is a quiet residential street. Alcohol abuse is a problem, and as our other objectives have said, having the pub opposite, particularly having an off license selling to 11 o'clock at night, I think is only tempting fate, as they say. Now, I can't see any reason for there to be an extension to 11 p.m. from the normal 10 p.m. As well as those things I've said. So in terms of public safety, now the application has specified fire safety and CCTV, but there are other safety concerns that have not been addressed. Is there provision for disabled access? The application of the license makes no mention of access, whether that is access to the shop, but via outside the shop. Is there a guarantee that outside the premises won't be cluttered with portable signage, advertising, Amazon deliveries, and other obstructions on the corner? And as the corner's confined as it is, it can't sustain, lots of toing and go and throw it, to and fro in front creates a public safety risk. And litter, it hasn't been discussed yet, that the rise in litter around the change of use of this hasn't been addressed. There's no word in the application about litter. Now, going on to prevention of public nuisance, we talked about intoxicated individuals. Yes, they've said they won't serve drunk people, but there isn't a detailed idea of any staff training about how they would refuse to deal with, how they would deal with intoxicated customers, how they would refuse, and how they would deal with almost the threat of violence that might create. So I think we'd need a lot more detail of a higher rate of training for sure. Now, as others have said, the increase in delivery drivers and riders to pick up alcoholic drinks for deliveries. Now, this application isn't your sort of local convenience corner shop of old anymore, because that's not the retail experience.
Councillor, I'm sorry to interrupt you. You've exhausted your 5 minutes. I suppose the time does go fast when you're having fun. So thank you for your statement.
I do apologise. Sorry.
That's fine. That's fine. Thank you to each of the objectors who have spoken now. This time we'll definitely move on to the applicant. So can I go back to asking Mr. Singh and or Mr. Panchal to speak? You have up to 25 minutes between each other whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that the hearing. Chairman, I'm going to be very brief. I'll try and make sure I won't be below 25 minutes. I have looked at the concerns. Before I go further, please do stop me if you can't hear me, because I'm going to be reading through. I'm a little bit away from my mic. Chairman, first of all, our applicant. When we put in the application, we normally go through with the responsible authorities of the council and ask the councils. And in this case, in 19 September 2023, we rang the police constable or the police licensing officer, Mr. Chris Cardwell, before we put the application in. And we looked at the concerns of the criminal activities around the area. We did ask Mr. Chris what was his views if we put this application in through for our client. And we managed to find out that to avoid any street drinking and to get everything into place, we would look into the licensing policy of the council, which we did. And the concern the police say to us that if we could not sell strong alcohol above 5.5%, there would be no problems in the area and street drinking could be avoided. Hence, we did that. And our client, Mr. Gurpreet Singh, has 7 to 8 years experience in off-license. He had a Trimex Food and Wine in Harlington, where he was working for 7 to 8 years. He holds a personal license. After the Trimex, he went and now owns a Brentford White Style Local Limited, another off-license shop. And he's now moved here in this shop for the application, looking for further expansion of his business. He has considered, he has looked into the licensing policy, and in your bundle, if you look at page 5, the policy considerations, and we have looked at those policy considerations. Regarding the trading standards, if you look at page 59 to 60 of your bundle, we did speak to Mr. Doug Love also. This was another responsible authority, and we made sure that we would agree with the training material. I'm now going to go through how the training is going to be done. I know I can see the concerns of the local people about how the training will be booked up. We have taken all those into considerations and looked at the policy of the Hammersmith and Fulham Council. So we are going to have an incident book, which I'm showing you here, which is going to be there present at the shop at all times. There will be a refusal book at all time when Challenge 25 policy is also going to be in place, and the refusal book will be part of the Challenge 25 policy when people will be asked their ID at the age of 25 to 18. There will be posters wherever the alcohol is displayed to show that there's a Challenge 25 policy in place, and people will be asked for their IDs before they can purchase alcohol if they look 25 to 18. Looking at what would happen with the noise and the consideration, we've also made sure that there will be posters in the shop at the door before people leave, and at other places behind the counter saying, please leave quietly and consider our neighbors. So we have taken into consideration what the neighbors' concerns are. Regarding the CCTV, we are very happy to have an extra CCTV put up on the outside of the shop. We'll try to make sure there is a lighted area outside, for safety and security of the customers walking around. There will be a CCTV poster saying that there is a CCTV 31 days recording, and any responsible authority who wishes to take the CCTV of any time, we will be able to download that recording. There will be a training manual which will be showing a right to work of all the staffs who are working. So before they're employed, a right to work will be checked. Their documents will be in the training manual. There will be all trainings logged into the manual for all the staff before they start their employment. And after every 3 months, the trainings will be carried on to make sure those trainings are recorded in the staff. All the staff are going to be authorized by the DPS. Our client is going to be the DPS, designated premises supervisor, who will be making sure these matters are carried out in the training manual. So Chairman, you can see that and looking at the consideration regarding, I can see the timings. The pub down the road sells alcohol up to midnight, 12 o'clock, which we have got. If you look into your bundle, you could see the hours laid out by the pub, which is page 33 of the bundle, which shows that the pub's music stops at 10 o'clock and the supply of alcohol on and off the premises is midnight, 12 o'clock. So the pub is going to be allowed to sell alcohol off the premises as well as on the premises up to midnight. While we're saying we'll not be selling alcohol till midnight, we'll be selling alcohol only up to 11 o'clock. And if the committee feels, we are happy if the committee feels that the hours are concerned with the neighbors, we're happy to reduce it to 10:30 in the night. We're quite happy to do that because we want to work with the neighbors. My client wants to work with the neighbors. So he's happy to reduce it if the committee feels that the concerns of the neighbors are there. We're happy to reduce it to 10:30. I'm looking at the criminal issue. There will be CCTV recording 31 days. There will be staff trained. Whoever staff will be working at the premises, they will be fully trained under the APLH level 2, and they will have their personal license present. I have the supplementary information that has been sent at the last minute with Mr. Doug Lowe. I've gone through with you how the training is going to be done under the training, and we are going to be logging our clients. Once we have the license is granted, we will be sending our workers to Doug Lowe's normal licensing training. So we will be giving full support to the trading standards as we normally do with all our other clients. So the clients will be sent up to Mr. Doug Lowe's thing. At the moment, we understand the assumptions of the neighbors, but we can assure them that everything will be in place. This isn't in a CIZ cumulative impact zone. We've noticed that. If it was on a CIZ zone, yes, we would be concerned about it. But at the moment, it isn't. The premises is not in the CIZ zone. I've also looked at the needs concern that the neighbors are having, but according to the guidance, Chairman, we're just saying according to the guidance, 14.19 of the guidance clearly states that there can be confusion about the difference between the need for premises and the cumulative impact of premises on the licensing objectives. For example, on crime and disorder, need concerns the commercial demand for another pub or restaurant or hotel and is a matter for the planning authority and for the market. This is not a matter for a licensing authority in discharging its licensing function or for its statements of licensing policy. But we understand at Hammersmith and Fulham that you do look into the plannings also at times to look at make sure that the planning is also in place. And in this case, the planning has been approved. If you look at your bundle, sorry, I lost my page, but it is in the bundle. On page 59, 60 of your bundle. Sorry, page 68. I beg your pardon, Chairman. It is on page 68 that the planning has now been approved. So the planning matter has been approved for
No, that's not correct. No.
Charlotte, please, you know how these meetings work. We cannot interact with each other. Sorry, Mr. Singh, please resume.
Okay, I'll explain. Okay.
No, sorry, Charlotte. Wait for questions, please.
Sorry, Chair. On page 68, thank you for taking my call earlier. As discussed, I have two cases against the above property. The first one is to do with the planning permission, demolition of existing attached decision notice and approved plans for your reference. So I'm referring to what I've seen on page 68, Chair. Chairman, that's what we are at the moment. We are happy to take any questions. We're going to be making sure the 4 licensing objectives are robustly promoted at the premises. And if there are any questions, we are happy. We would like to work with the local residents. We're not going to shy away with the local residents because our client is going to depend on the local people's trade at the premises. So, Chairman, I'm happy to take any questions over the premises, and that's our presentation at the moment.
All right, thank you both. Before we move on to committee questions, this is a question I'll ask of Charles, governance. Just to clarify, can Councillor Alexander ask any questions?
No, he can't participate in any way, and he can't participate in deliberations either.
Okay, thank you, Charles. Committee questions. Can I ask each committee member, that's Councillor Afzal Khan and myself, to ask any questions of any party about the application and issues that have been raised at the hearing? Councillor Afzal Khan, if you'd like to ask any questions.
I have a question for the applicants, and one of my questions is that are you going to offer services for local residents to be able to deliver and drop off their Amazon returns and the like? I know quite a few off-license shops offer that service to local services, and it makes them profitable to have those contracts with Amazon, but it also is a huge service provided to residents because we don't have to go far away to drop off our Amazon returns and other returns.
Ma'am, at the moment, it's not a big shop. You can see the size of the shop if you look at. So we, at the moment, are not going to be doing Amazon returns and take parcels at the moment.
I'm just trying to identify if that is going to add any extra traffic to your shop, because I think people normally walk to local off-license shops, and a lot of residents had talked about increased traffic congestion, which I'm not sure how we can establish if going to an off-license is going to cause any increased congestion. That shop used to be a laundromat, from what I know of the records, and there were quite a few local people and out of area residents of Hammersmith and Fulham who regularly went to that laundromat and dropped off their laundry and picked up their laundry, and the machines were running 24/7. And I don't think anybody complained about noise and nuisance caused by the laundromat. In fact, they were quite happy with the people who came in and went out of that shop, and a lot of people did go in and out of the shop. And I don't see how a food and wine shop that's providing a local service wouldn't want to make that relationship with the residents in terms of services provided. So I would like to hear from the applicant.
Can I just correct you? I
mean, Mr. Marotta, no. So please, at this stage, only the people who ask questions by the councillors may respond. Councillor Afzal Khan, please, apologies for this.
Sorry. So I would like to ask the applicant, what other steps is he willing to take to make those positive relationships in the community?
If the residents do require, yes, we will respond to that. and try and make it easier for the residents. So if the residents responds, at the moment we haven't contacted Amazon or anybody, but we will do if the residents' requirement is there.
Thank you.
Councillor Al-Zarqan, if you have any other question, you can go on.
I have another question for Councillor Trehi. So Councillor Trehi, on behalf of the residents, you've talked about crime a lot, that there's a lot of crime. There's a lot of crime around off licenses. And I wonder if you have any statistics on that, if there's increased crime around off licenses that you know of, that you can quote that it is in fact off licenses, license shops that cause that crime.
I have to admit that it's anecdotal, but if you look again at the pack of the objections, there were statistics in those objections presenting. But no, I don't have. Oh, sorry, have I frozen?
No, please go on.
Sorry, there's a note flashing up on my screen saying my internet's unstable. So no, it's anecdotal at the moment. There was more information that the police do say that, but I can't back it up with statistics now. I'd have to come back to you.
Okay. Then I have a question for Mr. Shafri there. You said that there's a very strong line of argument that runs through all the complaints. And that's, I think, 10 to 11 residents have complained or raised concerns about it. And if it's a very residential area, do you not think that the fact that Sainsbury closes on a Sunday, wouldn't there be a positive to having a food and wine shop? And I know that you focused a lot on it being an alcohol provider and an alcohol seller. There are other things that a food and wine shop sells, which might be beneficial for the residents when other shops are closed.
That's fine. Yes, having the ability to buy, bread or milk, I have no objection to the non-alcohol sales. But if you want to buy alcohol on a Sunday, you can go to the Sainsbury's up the road. You can go to Crystal's at the end of the road. You can go to the other supermarket opposite Sainsbury's, whose name I've forgotten. There are plenty of other ways you can buy alcohol on a Sunday. I think I don't think it's really a valid point at all. The other point, sorry, in responding to that,
the competition is not the remit of the licensing committee. The competition to the shop is not the remit of a licensing committee.
Sorry, but what is your question? Is there some benefit to the local area of being able to buy alcohol from the shop on a Sunday? I would say pretty minimal, to none.
My question was, are there any positives to having a food and wine shop and not just focusing on the fact that they will also be selling alcohol, and they have already agreed that they will limit themselves to 5.5 or under 5.5%. I'm just wondering.
Two things. There's benefit to having food shops for sure, but I think they're also selling spirits where the alcohol content will be considerably higher than 5.5%. The whole area for selling presumably vodka and whiskey and gin and all that. So there's certainly be selling high alcohol products, if not high alcohol beer. So yeah, the benefit to the local residents in being able to buy a pint of milk, yes, there are some marginal benefits there. But if you look at the plans for the shop, there is far more emphasis given to alcohol and vapes and things like that than to actually selling groceries, which is a relatively small area in a small shop. So yes, there is certainly a benefit to having groceries available locally on a Sunday, but there's not any really benefit to having alcohol available. It's not difficult to get hold of, even on a Sunday.
Thank you so much. Those are all the questions that I had, Councillor Verdier. Thank you very much.
No problem. If you have any other questions, please raise your hand and I'll come back to you. I wanted to ask a question of licensing. So we've had some really, really helpful representations in which there's a lot of important points being raised. There was one point around and it's been said tonight, about the accessibility of the venue. Could you let us know, licensing, whether this is correct, that the venue will not have any accessible entrance?
Councillor, I don't know whether that's maybe a question for the applicant. We're not sure. I don't think we can see from the plans that have been provided to us whether there will be an accessible entrance. Possibly the applicant might be able to clarify that. We can't comment on it at this stage, unfortunately.
Okay. Would the applicant like to clarify that?
Sorry, Chair, you're asking that would that be a disabled access? Is that the question?
Yes.
Yeah. We will be trying to get the disabled access. At the moment, from what we've got, there is not much space, but we will be trying to modify that.
Okay, thank you. Hopefully this one licensing can respond to. This is a question around what residents have raised about the potentiality for the pavement space around the shop to be clogged up by signs, or potentially delivery drivers parking their bikes, or even worse, scooters. Could you let us know what in this application is being planned around that? How do we make sure that doesn't happen? I'm sorry, if that's okay, I'll ask of the licensing authority and then I'll come back to you.
Thank you.
I'm just going to check the plan, actually, Councillor, just to see if the outside area is being included. But I think from what I've seen previously, that the area outside the highway, outside the premises rather, is the public highway. So if they did want to put any A-boards outside or anything else outside, they would need to contact the highways department at the council and get the relevant authorisations to be able to do that. I'm just trying to see if I can see the plan, just to let you know. Yeah, from what I can see, there's no, it doesn't include the outside area. So they don't own the area of land outside the premises. So they wouldn't have any right to put anything there. They would need to speak to the highways team and get that authorization.
Okay. To the applicant, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, Chair. Adrian's just answered your question, and we do know that even if we applied, I don't think, from my experience of planning, which I do normally for shops, at this instance, because the public has to pass, it will become a public nuisance if there was an application granted. So it won't be granted anyway, because there's public walking around to that space. So we will not be using anything that sort, or we won't be even going forward to apply for that type of planning.
If I could just add to that, Chair, as well. I know, I mean, I'm not an expert in highways licensing at all, but I know that often when they're deciding whether to grant a highways license, they will see if a pram can make its way past, if that license was granted, or if a wheelchair could make its way past. So they will certainly look at how narrow that footway is before making a decision.
Thank you, Adrian. I'm going to stay with you and ask you about opening hours. So we've heard residents mention that some shops around the premises are open until later or sooner. Could you let us know what time the pub at Gloucester Road closes and what its license for off-site sale of alcohol is currently?
Yes, we can do. If you can bear with me on that one, we'll have a look into the hours for that. If it's okay, could we just come back to you on that one?
Sure.
Shortly.
And if you could look up in that meantime also the supermarkets that have been mentioned by residents to find out what hours they close, and particularly if there are days during which they're not open, please.
Will do. Thank you. We'll come back to you on those ones.
Thank you. I wanted to ask to the applicant this time around, there's a representation on page 53 mentioning a noise insulation of the premises. So we councillors get the addresses of the people making representations. We're not allowed to disclose them for GDPR reasons. What is your plan around that, insulating the shop for noise?
That's a very, sorry, Chair, that's a very, very difficult question for an off license to install a noise limiter or something, because we are not going to play music or we're not going to play anything. We have notices put up which will say, please consider our name. I don't think anybody coming in the shop's going to shout, or so that's what we will be saying at this very moment. But we will make sure people do not shout or make noise when they come to the shop. We'll definitely make sure that consideration is taken into account.
Thank you. Councillor Abzal Khan.
I want to ask the applicant if they would consider putting shuttered cupboards where they store alcohol, so that if they need to limit the sale of alcohol, that we can have a visual that the shutters come down on the alcohol cupboards at a specific time, and that they do not sell alcohol beyond that time.
Yes, ma'am. We are going to make sure we have shutters on the fridges, but we will be mirroring the hours of the opening and the licensable activity. So, in other words, if you were to grant us a license today till 8 to say 10:30 or 11 o'clock, we would be making sure that we close the shop at 11 o'clock. And if we were to open beyond, we would then have to ask for an application to increase our opening hours, which we are not doing at this moment. But if we were to, we will put the shutters on, definitely.
Councillor Abzal Khan, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay. I wanted to talk about the planning application. So around this, this is a licensing committee in which we cannot take planning matters into consideration for our determination. However, I was interested, and this is a question to the applicant, what was the process for applying for a planning permit, and did you get any representations, and how did you deal with them?
Sorry, Chairman, I'm not an architect, or I wasn't a planning applicant, but if you look at your bundle on page 70 of your application, the architects were Jas Bala, and there was a full planning permission applied for, which was granted. It says full planning permission granted subject to the following conditions, and there are some conditions laid out at that on page 71 of your bundle. I cannot comment much on the planning, as I'm not the architect or the planning, but it's there on page 71, 72. It indicates the planning was granted.
That's okay. I wanted to ask you about whether you had any representations around that and how you dealt with it, because obviously we've got representations tonight, and what we've been told by residents tonight is there's been no communication from you or to them. So I wanted to hear your side of the story. If you could tell me or give me an example of a way that you've addressed some of the residents concerned ahead of tonight, obviously, because you've made a number of suggestions. However, that was tonight. So ahead of tonight, how did you speak to residents? How did you modify your application?
Sorry, yes. Thanks, Chairman. From my point of view, in normal circumstances, before we put any applications from our company, we normally get in touch with responsible authorities and see what their views are regarding the application. And we did this, as I said, we did email the police licensing officer. We had the views and everything. When the application was in normal circumstances, we do apologize that we did not do this in this favor, and we will learn our lesson today. From our point of view, that we will make sure that certain minutes or the meetings are carried out with the residents before the application is put in. But after the application, you can only then know the objections from the residents. And we were concerned, and that is why we've today looked at all the concerns and have answered those concerns here. But we do apologize. We should have had a connection with the residents, and we'll make sure we do that in the past. But it's always made through the licensing authorities.
I appreciate the honesty. Thank you. I would defer and say that sometimes applicants do actually leave it or knock on doors. There's a number of hands raised, so we don't operate for the people who are not councillors or officers on a hands raised basis. Councillor Abzal Khan, before I go over to you, however, I do want to ask to hear specifically, please, the residents that I'm going to call about the experience of engagement with the applicant. Mr. Marotta. Paul
Hello.
Marotta.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, some of the points I wanted to make is in reference to the pub, for example, it's a very different establishment, okay, to an off license. Okay, it's a licensed premises that serves food. It's been established in the area for a long time. It's part of the character of the street. Previously, as was mentioned, the shop was a laundrette. It was not operating 24/7, right? It was operating primarily during the day, daylight hours, 9 o'clock to 7 p.m. Okay, so you're changing essentially the character of that location to a premises that's selling food. Again, as previous applicants have, previous correspondents have said, no objection to selling food, having availability of food. It's the alcohol and the length of alcohol.
Mr. Marotta, I understand your strength of feeling. You will have time to sum up and say whatever you would like, but specifically on the question I asked, which because we're in questions, what was your experience of engagement with the applicant, please?
Well, there was no, no, I didn't see anything. Obviously, you saw what was documented in the actual application, and then basically, I raised my concerns based on what I saw in that application, but I saw nothing else other than that or any other follow up.
Thank you, Mr. Shoffrey. On the same question, John Shoffrey, if you'd like to come in.
Yep. Absolutely no engagement at all with the applicant whatsoever. No engagement.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Brunetto?
Yeah, the same, no engagement whatsoever from the applicant.
Thank you. Councillor Afzal Khan.
I was going to ask the residents that having heard the applicant and the work that he's willing to put in terms of training, in terms of putting in incident books, Challenge 25 book, posters, CCTV for 31 days, training for the employees. We've heard all the things that they're going to do. I understand that they might not have engaged with you before today, but they have listened to your concerns and they have responded with what they will do to address your concerns. Do you think that is enough to allow a business to come and grow in your community? So I would like to address that question to Mr. Shoffrey, to Ms. Dexter, to Mr. Marotta, and to Mr. Brunetto.
Okay, if we can try to go in this order, please.
Okay, I will start. Not really. I still see no benefit to us in having alcohol sales in these hours. I think the concerns raised about the Deliveroo economy and lots of little motorbikes and Deliveroo dealers and Getter delivers picking things up have not really been addressed. The risk of antisocial behaviour is still there. At the very least, I would want to see reduced hours for selling alcohol to 10 o'clock at the latest. The other point I want to make in response to that is that I have an email.
Please answer the question.
Okay.
Please just limit yourself
my
to
answer is
the question.
no, he is not, and briefly, no, he is not fully satisfied by concerns. No.
Thank you, Mr. Shoffrey. Councillor Afzal Khan, who did you want next?
I think I wanted Ms. Dexter next.
Yes, thank you. I would say that, as you know, there are mandatory conditions put on every license. And then there's a whole pool of conditions that you as the subcommittee consider. And almost always CCTV is in there, training has to happen. It will happen. It's suggested very strongly, and it ultimately ends up in every license. So all of these things that they've mentioned are things that are, de rigueur. They are expected by you. They will be put into the license. They are implemented. So they're not new ideas. They're not anything that are out of the ordinary, and they're very minimal. I would like to say specifically regarding delivery and logbooks. I'm sure you know that these logbooks they're an out-of-date concept, because deliveries are such now that, because of GDPR and the inability to have the person's name or even their address, the logbooks it doesn't work. I don't know really the answer. I'm sure the committee's looking at that from a policy standpoint, but I haven't been able to figure out what the real answer is. But I do understand that no Deliveroo person comes back and reports on a refusal, and hardly any delivery people do refusals, because it just takes up time, and there's no law that really requires them to do that. So even if it's in the requirements of the license, it ends up not happening. And
but do you think they're trying to meet all the requirements that
absolutely
you have
not.
named?
No.
Do you think they're making an effort? Because we're not going to discuss whether the systems are there or not, if the systems are good enough or not, but these are the systems that can be implemented. And do you feel that they're trying to do their best to implement them to satisfy the local residents?
To satisfy the minimal requirements, perhaps, not to satisfy the residents. And the problem.
What else can they do, Ms. Dexter?
They can. It's my understanding that the licensing authority sends these comments of ours every few days, if not every several days. So the applicant had these comments not just when they were published a few days ago. They had them for a long time. They didn't make any effort to contact any of us. And the licensing authority is very aware of people in Fulham who are very involved in licensing matters as residents, as interested parties. So the licensing authority can immediately suggest that they contact us so that we contact them. Because of GDPR, it's a bit of a loop, but the loop can happen. The loop didn't happen. There was no effort. I mean, you'd have to ask Lorna, but I'm not aware that anybody asked Lorna or Adrian Overton to contact any of the residents. You might find that to be the case as you continue to ask people. But yes, there's some minimal effort here, but there isn't any real concern. And what's interesting is that the applicant hasn't just said, look, this was a laundrette, it's on a sort of a triple corner. What we want to do is do this, and we want to offer that, and this is how we want to fit into the community, and so on and so forth. I mean, none of that's happened. It's just, and that's why there's a concern in the background that it's also going to become a real Deliveroo type hub, and that's why they're so concerned about alcohol, and that's why they just said and admitted to you that they will close whatever hour they get, late hour or early hour they get. That's when they will open and close, because they're not there really to supply anything else. They're not going to stay open an hour longer for a few people that might come by to buy a few supplies. He just explained that to us. They're going to use the hours that they're given. And so alcohol is the premier product in a very residential area in Fulham.
Thank you, Ms. Dexter. Thank you. Can I ask the same question of Mr. Marotta? That do you feel that they have the applicant has tried to satisfy the residents' concerns, and what else do you think they can do to satisfy the residents' concerns and become a part of this community and bring more business or services to the local community?
I think they've met the minimum requirements as specified. I think that's very clear. My main concern is just the length of hours in terms of serving. I've got no objection. I think I said this in my actual representation to the concept of actually selling alcohol. It's just the timing. 11, to such a late period in the evening. that is my main concern. It's not the fact that they're operating as a business, selling food, or even selling alcohol, as long as they've got the appropriate conditions and restrictions in place. It's the length of time having that facility open for so late in the evening. I just think it's going to be detrimental to the local fabric of the community of the street, basically. And that's my point. And offering to close at 10:30, that's nothing, basically. It should be a lot earlier than that. And my concern is that, as previous persons mentioned, and the actual applicants already mentioned it, it's a tiny shop. How much are they going to be able to sell in there in terms of actually non-alcoholic? So how are they going to make money? Is it primarily basically going to be alcohol? Because it's not a very big premises at all. They're not going to be able to stock that much in terms of non-alcoholic produce. So therefore, we can only deduce that the actual primary purpose of business is for selling alcohol and selling alcohol for as long as possible. So the main crux of my point is just the length, just the late. I just don't think, that late in the evening, especially when there are other alternatives nearby, and they are primarily on the main arterial roads. So on Wandsbridge Road, okay, you've got these late night premises which are more visual. Okay, they fit into the character of the street. They're more visual in terms of security and safety, not on a quiet residential street.
Thank you, Mr. Marotta. Can I ask the same question of Mr. Brunetto, and which is that how far have your concerns been addressed with all the requirements that the applicants are going to meet and willing to concede to and do above and beyond? And is there anything else that you would like them to do so they can be a part of this community?
Well, we are mainly concerned by the selling of alcohol, no matter the time, because we think that we appreciate that the selling of alcohol would be the most profitable activity in the shop. We understand that, but at the same time, we have this concern about criminal activities and antisocial behavior in the area. That's going to be for sure something to be addressed. And also, in terms of our concerns, we actually tried several times to get in contact with the owner of the shop during the works that they had been doing the last few months, but we haven't been received any feedback to our request. We have asked to the workers to get in contact with him, but there was no reply from them. And one other concern we have is about the litter and waste management strategy that they want to apply, because we had a lot of problems with the previous business, the laundrette. We had our front door filled with bin bags during night after the closing time of the laundrette, and we would like to avoid this with the new shop and with the new business. So we would like to ask them what is the precaution, the strategy they will apply for litter and waste.
Thank you so much, Mr. Brunetto, for sharing your concerns. I think those were all the people that I wanted to ask questions who were not the applicants. I have one question for the applicants. Are you planning to sell vapes and tobacco products, and how will you ensure safety of children and children buying from your shop? And I know that sometimes other people come and buy products and then give it to children around the corner or the like. So what safeguards have you built in to make sure that your products don't end up in young hands?
Ma'am, the first thing is we are going to be following the Challenge 25 policy. So that Challenge 25 policy will be in place. anybody at the age of 25 to 18 will be asked for an ID card. Even people under the age of 18 will be asked for an ID card. Today, the law says that they will not be able to sell any vapes or cigarettes or alcohol to anybody who's the age of 18 or below. So below the age of 18. So that policy will be in place. We're coming now, you're asked a question regarding proxy sale, which normally the adults buy it and give it to the children. If we find there is a proxy sale, we will not be selling alcohol to that person, even if he is aged. So that concern of a proxy sale will be ridiculous. Will be made sure that it doesn't happen. Regarding the, if you want, I can stress onto what will happen with the litter that recently we've heard from one of the neighbors. We will be having a contract with a collection waste collection department who will come and collect our waste on once a week or twice a week, depending on the amount of waste that we're going to create. But we'll not be putting the waste in front of anybody's doors. We can assure you that. And that is not going to happen. And if it does, please do come and talk to us. We will have the number there. Please come and talk to any time you wish to come to the shop and talk to us. We are most willing to hear to whatever you want us to carry out.
Thank you for answering that. My last question to you is, then we already have a situation where we have too many line bikes littering the pavements, and these are very narrow pavements. So they can't take lots of Deliveroo bikes and motorbikes cluttering up the pavements. So what measures will you put in place so that you don't have Deliveroo drivers and motorbikes lining up outside your shop and cluttering up the pavement?
I'll just briefly say to you that we are not going to have any Deliveroo contact. So we're not going to do any Deliveroo at all. At the moment, my client owns the Brentford shop, White Style Local Limited, and does not have Deliveroo deliveries. So there will be no bikes coming up for Deliveroo because we do not have the contract, or we do not wish to have a contract with Deliveroo.
Thank you very much for clarifying that, because I think a lot of the residents had that concern, and that issue came up again and again about Deliveroo drivers are causing congestion outside your shop. So your other shops don't have that contract, and you don't wish to have that contract or provide that Deliveroo service, because I understand there's quite a few supermarkets in the neighborhood that do the Deliveroo, so you don't need to. Okay. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor. Adrian, we'll come back to you about the question on opening times.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to confirm that the Sainsbury's on Wandsworth Bridge Road, 132 Wandsworth Bridge Road, is open from 8 in the morning until 11 in the evening. And the pub opposite the premises, the Fulham Arms, I think it used to be known as the Sands End, is open from 10 in the morning until midnight. And that's for the sale of alcohol and various other licensable activities for regulated entertainment and late night refreshment, for example. And I think that was both of the premises that you asked about.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Adrian. Is that also for the sale of alcohol off premises, those hours you've given?
That is on and off the premises. That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I wanted to come back to the applicant to ask you. So we've heard from residents. You've told us that you're not going to be doing deliveries. You've heard from residents concerned about the fact that your sale of alcohol could be quite high and cause disturbances in the area. Could you tell us about your business model? All in all, how are you planning to make money? What do you think people will come in to buy from your shop most?
If you look at the plan on page 31, and if you look at the plan, there is a lot of grocery and a lot of things on the plan, snacks and groceries. You see wines with freezer food that we're going to be putting up, frozen food and that. Our plan initially, the client's plan initially, we had this question put up to them, that how would you make money out of this if you're going to sell alcohol, which is 5.5, because most of the time people like strong alcohol. And their argument is that we will be trying to work with the community. We would like to deliver goods to the community when they come and put their order in. We would like to make their life much easier in the community there. And we would like the community to come and use us in a friendly manner to become part of the community. That is their plan in the area. And that is why they've looked at all the concerns regarding the neighbors and that. They want to be part of the community. They don't want to be away from the community. They want to talk to the community. Their first concern would be, before even they open it up, they want to go and talk to all the community people that we are seeing now. Their idea is to write to them and say, please, can we talk? Can we work together? Because without their support, or without the community's support in that area, their plan or their way of success is not going to happen.
Thank you. But I'm sorry to come back to that. So I'm very interested in the idea that you want to work with the community and support the community, but you've heard from residents who have mobilized, actually are here, spending their evening on Zoom instead of enjoying themselves, really. They were trying to talk to you, and they actually put in comments that, you know, the licensing authority would have given you, which were your chance to address them or engage with them. We do have applications where applicants actually speak to people, and some of the points are addressed. And sometimes even people go as far as withdrawing their representations. I just want to dig deeper on the sort of disparity between you saying you want to work with the community, but actually you've waited until tonight, and there was over 2 weeks delay between the time that licensing authority came back to you about training of staff and you responding. So I'm just thinking, how would you convince me that if we grant it to you, suddenly you would have a better engagement record?
In this instance, my sincere apologies to the client as well as to yourself. It was our fault. In the past applications, our company has always communicated to people who objected. And we will see those records you sometimes might have seen for a company. And in this case, it just slipped out from our mind. But we were initially talking to the responsible authorities. We should have spoken to the community. We totally agree with what you're saying. And we do apologize, but we will make sure in future it doesn't happen.
And would you have any suggestions on how you're going to make that happen?
Yes, our first, like I said, before we open, the shop is now being renovated.
Yeah.
Before we open the shop, I've already seen the context of the community there. And even before we open, we're going to make sure we're going to have a meeting, or we're going to write to them and say, yes, can we have a meeting before we open if the license is granted? Let's put it like that. That will be our first aim.
But usually that happens before.
Or I do agree. As I said, I apologize for what should have happened.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Afzal Khan, I don't have any further questions, so I'm minded to move on to summing up. Did you have any questions?
No, Councillor, but yeah, I think I've asked both parties, both sides, the residents and the applicants, to see if there's any give and take, and if they have accepted the applicants' efforts to provide those services and come up to the residents' expectations and standards. I feel that the applicants are trying to do their best to satisfy the residents' concerns, and will hopefully continue to make that effort. Obviously, they're trying to provide a service, and I think some of the residents here, in their responses have been very positive and are happy with the service that they will provide. The only concerns lie around the sale of alcohol, and perhaps a slight issue with the timings, which I think one of the council officers has also confirmed and compared with local timings for other places. So I think I am all good in terms of the information that I require. And thank you very much.
Great. We're going to move on to summing up. This is when each person who has spoken tonight gets 3 minutes to 3 minutes or more to say whatever they want. So I'm going to call people in order. We're going to start with the licensing officer, Lorna McKenna. Please, could you?
Nothing further to add, Chair.
Great, thank you. We're going to go to the objectors first. Roberto Brunetto, you have 3 minutes to sum up when you're ready.
Well, nothing more than I said before. Yeah, we have a concern about selling of alcohol, cigarettes and vapes on the business. We have concerns about the timing, opening time and closing time at night of the business. And other concerns about the litter and waste management, as we said. And we are afraid that the opening of such a business will, let's have an impact also on the value of the properties around the shop and also the impact on the quite residential area as is Defender Road is. So we are afraid that the presence of this business plus the pub across the road will let's say impact the quality of life of the neighbor. These are the main concerns we have, and we still have the same concerns after our discussion tonight.
Thank you to you both. John Shoffrey, over to you. You have 3 minutes whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much. I'll be very brief, just a few summing up points. First of all, if you look at the plan of the shop, it is quite clear that the sale of alcohol is pretty dominant. There's a big alcohol fridge, there's a whole thing saying wines, and then there's spirits and vapes at the front. Alcohol is the core of this business, it's quite clear. Second, no Deliveroo contracts, but there's a lot of Get Here around from the other delivery drivers, which he didn't comment on. And thirdly, very briefly, I had an email from Neil Milligan, who's the planning enforcement team leader, who confirmed that the current use of the property, which is a laundry, would appear to be sui generis, and therefore planning permission would be required to change of use to a shop. Now, reference was made to planning permission being granted, but that was to work done in the summer at the back of the shop, I think, to create some residential. But as I had confirmation, certainly from Mr. Milligan, and I think it's still true, that this would still need planning permission for change of use from a laundry to a shop selling food and alcohol. Now, I assume that's right, but I would be grateful for confirmation on that point. That's my summing up.
Thank you, John. Over to Luisa Moiro. Lorna, did you receive anything, or was there anything else you'd like to say on their behalf?
No, everything that I was said within what I said earlier. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorna. We'll go over to Charlotte Dexter. Over to you when you're ready.
Thank you. First of all, just to clarify the Neil Milligan and the planning enforcement, the point is, he wrote here that no such change of use has occurred, and therefore there's no breach of planning control yet. So he's assuming that licensing and planning will talk to each other. But that's the whole point. The application that the applicant referred to was for behind the front of the laundrette. So where all the laundry used to be done, that's been changed into, that's been given permission. So the permission given was to change that into residential. And it mentions a commercial property to the front, but a commercial property is a generic term and it needs planning permission. So the applicant really needs to know, if they don't know yet, they need planning permission, not a licensing issue, but licensing is dependent well, it's not dependent, but the two are separate, but they somehow go together. So even if they get a license tonight, they can't do anything until they have planning permission to change from a laundrette to a shop, which a shop is Class E and a laundrette is a different class, sui generis. So that's very important for the applicant to realize. I'd like to say also that the applicant has put a lot of emphasis on signage, and we've had several licensing hearings about signage and people being nice and people not making noise and so on. And these can't be up, as we know legally, they can't be upheld. They're very nice ideas, and but they have nothing to do really with anything. If the applicant is not doing Deliveroo or Just Eats or Get Here or whatever, and if the planning, if you plan to give him some kind of license tonight, I would strongly ask you, in the name, I think, of everyone, that you have a condition that says there will be no deliveries from the premises at any time, by any means, whether that's by foot, by vehicle, by scooter, by bicycle, by any other means, third party, or by any means where they would hire someone. They can also hire, interestingly, third parties and kind of turning them into, although the Supreme Court just had a decision 2 days ago, which I'm sure the committee is aware of, but they can kind of hire people on 0 hours to be their scooter driver. So that all would need to be really discussed, I would think, before you do anything about this.
I'm
Hello?
sorry to stop
Yes.
you. You have
Yeah.
exhausted your 3 minutes.
Yeah, well,
I'm going to move on to this time not forget Councillor Tree. Councillor Tree, you're representing Paul and Susan Marotta, but you have 3 minutes only as well.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I've listened to the pros and cons, and I'm just not convinced by the applicant's arguments. As John Jeffrey said, the dominant sales in this shop are going to be alcohol, and this isn't there's no quality control on this alcohol. This is, you know, it could be the sell it cheap, get it out of the door kind of alcohol, and this is the worry that we have. There is no relationship with the community. This is a shop setting up to sell off the street, and we haven't heard from the applicant any great defense about how they're going to control this. Now, I hadn't got onto children, you know, the protection of children from harm. So the application doesn't specify, other than photo ID, any other deterrent or control about children. You know, they didn't particularly really answer the proxy sale idea. You know, if they found out somebody was giving it to kids, well, how are they going to find, you know? But the thing is, this is in a quiet residential street. This isn't on the high street that has regular, you know, bobbies on the beat. It's a quiet residential street that doesn't have the visibility that the high street has. Again, I concur with everybody on the idea that we can stop the get-ears coming to pick up stuff from that shop, and line bikes being dumped around the shop, causing congestion. Particularly, this is a 424 community bus route, and it really worries me that also we've brought in this fantastic clean air neighbourhood, and the idea of mopeds, you know, delivering and picking up really worries me. So yes, I don't think we have heard that there's any benefit to the community to have this license granted. I think the steps proposed to ensure the physical safety and the people accessing isn't strong enough, and how they intend to prevent the nuisance arising isn't strong enough. I'd ask the committee to really seriously consider rejecting this application. I think the impact on the community will be detrimental for no benefit. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. We'll now go over to the applicant. You have up to 15 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chair. We have discussed, we have put to you how robustly the 4 licensing objectives will be promoted. That is the concern, and that is the schedule around the Licensing Act Section 182 guidance. We will be making sure that all those conditions that we've laid out in the operating schedule of the application, as well as what we've suggested to you tonight, will be taken care of. We do understand that if we were to breach any of those conditions, may I let the neighbors know that if we were to breach any of those conditions, under Section 135 of the Licensing Act, we would be prosecuted and we would lose our license. We would be coming in front of this committee who will have a chance to revoke our license if we were to breach any of the conditions. So we will not be looking forward to getting any of those out of our promotion of 4 licensing objectives. As you heard, that concerning the children's alcohol sales, we will be making sure under the guidance Section 182 that the promotion of children from harm is robustly looked into. And we will be following the Licensing Act very robustly. So, Chairman, we will be looking that. And we again promise you that we will be, before we open the shop, we will be contacting the neighbors again, and we will be looking forward to, if the license was granted, that how we would be operating our place. We are happy to have, I've just discussed with the client whilst the neighbors were speaking, we are happy to have the condition that there will be no deliveries of that, because we do not intend to do that. He has not done it in these other shops and still been successful with the neighbors and been successful. So we are happy to have that. We're not saying to you today, and we don't want you to just grant the license without that condition, and then we tomorrow we put the delivery in. So we are happy to have that condition. And as I said, as I mentioned, it would be a breach of any condition which would then have our license revoked if it was granted today. So, Chairman, we're happy to look into that. We've had a connection with all the responsible authorities, and none of the responsible authorities today have objected to the application because we have done a positive operating schedule, and we will be promoting all the 4 licensing objectives robustly. All the training material that we've said to you have been in our application. If you look at the application, the licensing application that we've sent in, it's already there, in our operating schedule, that how we will be promoting the 4 licensing objectives. So, Chairman, we feel that the license be granted today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, for your input tonight. We're going to move on to deliberations. The committee will now retire to take its decision in a separate meeting room. You are welcome to remain in the meeting to hear the committee's decision. However, this may take some time. If you don't want to wait, a summary decision will be published on the Council's website tomorrow morning. Can I ask members to turn off their video, mute their microphones, and join the private Teams meeting for deliberations? And I think, again, to stress in the interest of transparency, this will be Councillor Afzal Khan and myself. Thank you.
Sorry, Chair, is there any time that we come back, or?
Councillor Afzal Khan and myself will now deliberate, so there's no, I can't say to you how long we'll take, but we'll certainly be back when we have made a decision.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Good evening, everyone. We're going to resume shortly. Charles, are we back on?
No, Chair. I'm sorry, your other councillor isn't here at the moment. Councillor Tree isn't there.
Oh, yes, of course.
Sorry, did you need me to be online? No.
No. It's fine. Sorry, it's
We need Councillor Alfar Khan to come back because we're not quorate otherwise.
that's correct, yeah.
But thank you to everyone for sticking with. Is that okay, Charles?
Yes, she's back now. She just needs to put a camera on.
Thank you, Councillor.
Right, Chair, you can proceed.
Thank you, Charles. I will read the decision later. So for Fulham Local Food and Wine, 126 Stevendale Road, London, SW6 2PH. The committee has considered an application for a new premises license for the sale of alcohol off the premises and to operate as an off-license and convenience store under the Licensing Act 2003. In summary, the committee has decided, after taking into account all of the individual circumstances of this case and the promotion of the 4 licensing objectives, to grant the application in part as follows. The sale of alcohol off the premises, Monday to Saturday, 10 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. The opening hours of the premises, Monday to Sunday, 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. Add the following conditions agreed by the committee. There shall be no remote deliveries from the premises. The sale of alcohol be Monday to Saturday, 10 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. closing. All display units for alcohol shall have lockable shutters. Shutters shall be closed and locked at the end of the permitted hours for the sale of alcohol and shall not be unlocked again whilst the premises is open until the start of the permitted hours on the following day. The license becomes operational with immediate effect. If problems are experienced, then an application for a review of the premises license can be made. A copy of this committee's full decision, including its reasons and the full text of the conditions added to the license, will be sent to the parties forthwith. If the applicant is unhappy with the decision, they are entitled to appeal to the Magistrates' Court within 21 days from the date of notification of the full decision. Great, that concludes our meeting tonight. Thank you to everyone who participated, to the officers and the councillors who took part this evening. I will adjourn the meeting for 10 minutes, waiting for the next part of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Good night.
So Charles, is it back with Paul then for this item?
He's there, but as I say, I explained a moment ago that he needs to rejoin so that you can pass the resolution to move into exempt session. Members still live on YouTube. I've explained that.
Sorry, I am here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh, right, okay.
We need to wait for Emmanuel and Afzal Khan to join, Chair, and then you can move the meeting along and you need to pass resolution item 4 before I can turn the live stream off.
Yeah, and is the officer in the meeting?
No, Chair, you just need to pass that resolution first before I can let them in.
So is that
will be it would be Councillor Shapovaldia passing the resolution.
Okay. Sorry, I wasn't sure who you were addressing. Great. I'm going to propose, I haven't got the exact wording, and this is a resolution to exclude the public, which, Charles, you can tell us is the standard resolution because the matters are reserved. Am I correct?
Yes, Chair. To discuss item 4 will require the committee to pass a resolution to exclude the press and the public for the proceedings of this discussion. Under Section 100A of the Local Government Act 1972, that the public and press be excluded from the meeting during the consideration of the following items of business on the grounds that they contain the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined by paragraph 3 of Schedule 12A of the said Act, as it contains information relating to the financial or business affairs of any particular person, including the authority holding that information. Is this agreed by the committee?
Thank you. Councillors, do you agree or disagree with this motion?
Agreed.
Councillor Afzal.
Agreed. Agreed.
Thank you, and I agree.
Thank you. If you bear with me now, I can stop the live stream. Bear with me.
Thank you.